Hi. I hope you just enjoyed a cup of coffee because, is it okay for translations? Okay. Because according to the tobacco industry, nicotine is no more addictive than coffee. Okay, so this is such a big subject. So I will go over a number of the burning issues as Dear Martin introduced me with. On the slide, this young man is 14 years old. He's from Manchester in England, and he's vaping. He's wearing a school uniform. He's about to go into school. This might seem an odd picture to show. Why would one child be vaping? Well, millions are now vaping. This particular story is not unusual. So why did it make the headlines? Originally, he became addicted to tobacco cigarettes and was smoking 10 a day. He started age about 13. Somebody offered him a cigarette, so he started to smoke. His mother, out of compassion and love for her son, she said, "This is so bad, tobacco's so bad. I'll get you an electronic cigarette because they are healthy and safe and they will get you off your nicotine addiction." That's what she believes. Why? Because the British government publishes this fact. But that wouldn't make the headlines. What made the headlines was that she fought against her son's school. She demanded that her child be allowed to vape in school, in class. And the governors and head teacher said no. So she went to the press, and hence the news story. And in a way, that's a microcosm of this entire talk, that demand to say we can vape everywhere because it's safe, because the British government lies. I don't like to say that. I'm English and it upsets me a bit, but they lie to the whole world about this subject, and I want to go into that in some detail, if you permit me. The Immoral Reprogramming of Society's Mind. What a great title. Thank you for giving it to me. But that sums up everything. We are being clouded by this illusion that electronic cigarettes, and I'll talk if I have time about the heat-not-burn cigarettes, that they're safer, they're less harmful, and that they will wean you off your nicotine addiction. It's not true. So we've heard about addiction for the new generation. Toys made to look like mobile phones, and tablets, iPad equivalents. We just heard about sugar addiction. This is not too uncommon now, as we hear, and the effects on our teeth are also not very good either. Okay, so we have this new generation of addicts. What about vaping? This made the headlines and news across America and other parts of the world. My first vape. First question was, is it genuine? Can you buy it? And if so, where? Actually, it's a fake. The designer who made this packaging did so just to make a point. We are giving all the things we know are bad to our children as toys. Toy mobile phones, soon real ones, iPads, etc., all the addictive things. So when are we eventually going to give them electronic cigarettes as well as a toy, just to train them into becoming the next generation of addicts? If you thought that the target isn't children, think again. This is a quote from R.J. Reynolds, which is a tobacco company just recently purchased by British American Tobacco, from the 1980s. This was revealed, and Dear Lucas gave us that. I do not believe nicotine is addictive Senate hearing. In the documentation that forced that Senate hearing was this quote: at a sales meeting for R.J. Reynolds. The sales reps asked the executives in the room for their company, R.J. Reynolds executives, they asked who their target market is because they wanted to place tobacco in shops very close to schools. So they asked, exactly, who are the young people being targeted? Junior high school kids or even younger? The reply came back, they got lips, we want them. Don't think for 1 second that anything has changed. They're still the target. And unfortunately, there are so many children smoking still. And now they're moving towards electronic cigarettes, and we'll explain a little bit about why that is. But some facts on tobacco smokers. You have a shorter lifespan in general. 7 million people die every year from tobacco. That's an epidemic that's ignored. We'll go into reasons why it's ignored. By the middle of this century, because of the massive increase in smoking in Africa and in Asia, China in particular, it's estimated we're going to get around 20 million deaths a year directly caused by smoking. That's tobacco cigarettes. There are some varying statistics on numbers of smokers dying directly as a result of tobacco. Some will say every second smoker, some will say 2/3, some will say 85%, I will say 100%. It's so toxic. Eventually your body is going to give way in some way, and that toxicity is going to be, the reason why your body gives way is because of the toxicity of the cigarette that you take. Average life expectancy of smokers in men is reduced by 13 years. In women, 14 and a half years. So my great-granddad, he smoked until he was 80, nearly 90. He died. He didn't seem to be particularly unwell until the last 2 or 3 years of his life, where his mind and his body started to degenerate. He began when he was about, he says, when he was about 6, smoking. But he may have lived to 100. If he didn't smoke. He lived healthily, he grew his own food, no pesticides or anything, just grew everything naturally. So he had a natural life except for smoking. My great-grandmother, and this was something that came up from Dr. Yadz's talk that you asked the question, about bingo. My brothers used to accompany my great-grandmother to the bingo hall when she visited. She would smoke chain smoke continuously. She wouldn't take the cigarette out of her mouth. She would just smoke and smoke and smoke. The ash would get longer and longer and longer, and eventually it would fall off. And then she'd get another cigarette, whilst we played bingo with her. And all these lovely old ladies, beautiful old ladies, would be there as a big social event. And boy, was she tuned in. Most of the time you think my great-grandmother's not really with it, but when it came to bingo, she managed several different cards at once. Incredible. Chain smoking all the way through. That was normal in those days. This was the 1970s, 1980s that we did this. But no longer. Bingo is all now online. That social event is gone. Great shame. Not the smoking part. I'm glad that's going, but the social life. Importantly, the quality of every smoker's life is reduced from the first cigarette. So even though you might think, well, I'll live to 80, then I'll die, and I'll have some health issues maybe as you get older. What you don't realize is that your life is actually starting to decrease from that first cigarette. And it's downwards the whole way. Now, smoking in different countries. Well, there's been such a big campaign against smoking over the years, particularly in the United Kingdom. And still, about 20% of adults smoke in the UK. Germany, about 30%. Not very good, but I will explain why in a minute. Switzerland, 23%. But 50 years ago, we were looking at 50% of the population smoked. So it is coming down. Russia, 60% nearly for men, women 22%. And so on, the United States, 18%. This is from Tobacco Atlas. This is the global survey on smoking they conduct every year. Other countries, China, 48% men, only 2% women. And I can say from being to China a couple of times that seems to be about right. Africa, the numbers here are actually a bit low. And I have seen videos recently on YouTube from tobacco companies looking at how they can promote smoking in women in Africa because their numbers are too low for that industry. We still have too high levels, really high levels of smoking across the world. Okay, so smoking figures are quite high around the world. This is a sample, I can't put them all. Colombia, 9%, so well done, Colombia. But I don't know about the statistics, how well they're recorded. But still, 1 in 10 people smoke. Okay. This, because we had discussions about male and female yesterday, the cigarette companies target men and women differently. It's disgusting, really, that they do that. They say, we have the product for you. Okay, it isn't good. So we make Virginia Slims especially for women because they're biologically superior to men. I'm not arguing that they're not, that's true. But the fact that they will target that, you will be a superhero if you smoke our product. Just giving you a flavor of what it's like. So Germany, 30%. And when I arrived, I walked out of the airport and there were people smoking immediately out of the airport. It's no different in England. You go to the airports, Heathrow, there are smoking areas straight out the door. So when you arrive off the plane, you leave the airport building, immediately you're hit by a wall of smoke. It's disgusting. So we need to do something about that. Big Tobacco, this is the industry. Big Tobacco controls the German scientific research and has done for many, many decades. What we have is the industry here. They create associations, they create research institutes which they control, they fund it, so researchers from universities go, they have research councils, and so many different things. Smoking and Health Limited, companies, laboratories about addiction, institutes of biological research, all funded by the industry. Big tobacco companies, they have their own research programs and they entice scientists to go join those research programs. The scientists, of course, receive money because this is this business of science supporting industry. It's kind of vicious cycle. The industry has a product, it wants to sell the product, it knows it's bad in some respects. So it pays the scientists who need the research funding. The universities are judged. My university is a commercial enterprise. All universities really are. They're judged now by money, not by research. So it's the money you bring in that matters, not the output so much. And so they'll take money from those who offer it. It's the same in England. It's the same in pretty much every Western country, westernized country, I would say. It's no different. Okay. So you have scientists who do the research. They are gradually pushed towards, well, maybe it's not so bad as you think, really, especially when we go to the world of electronic cigarettes, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Those scientists then talk to the politicians, because those scientists, they're eminent professors in their field. They're directors of tobacco control departments in their universities. They will be asked to sit on government agencies to write policy for smoking, for sugar, and so on, for microwaves. And, of course, they're paid by the industry. So they will write policies that favor the industry and their products, and they will say things that, It's probably safe when we get to electronic cigarettes, or safer, okay? But the tobacco companies never say their product is safe. And we get that with microwave industry. They never say their product's safe. They pay the scientists to push the message onto the politicians to tell you it's safe. And that is part of that brainwashing of our minds that maybe it is safe, you know, because it's coming from politicians. But there was a survey done, a journalistic survey, Who Do You Trust in the UK, just last week, and the public trust the newspapers. They don't really trust social media, but at the bottom of the list, politicians. Don't trust the politicians. Okay. So real journalism is trusted, which is great. So in 2015, this announcement appeared on the Public Health England UK government website. Electronic cigarettes are 95% safer than tobacco. For a small country, the UK, had a big impact around the world. So you see the electronic cigarette stores appearing, and they have signs outside saying 95% safer, or safer than tobacco. British government said so. They did the studies. It's proven. And I put this in a black background because I don't want the World Foundation to be saying that they're safer. Okay, that was my reason for doing that, but it's a massive impact. That website, it's still there. If you can go to that address, it's still available. You can look it up. They haven't taken it down. They've updated their information over the years, but they have the same message. So that's policy in the UK. And I'll show you the publications that are available. You can download them. This is the one that has 113 pages of information about electronic cigarettes, a survey and meta-analysis of the publications on electronic cigarettes regarding health, effect, even consideration of the effect in society. Okay, and the lead author is Anne McNeil, professor from King's College in London. Then a few questions were asked in the newspapers, which we'll get to in a second. And so she wrote a rejoinder, which is basically saying, yes, what I did say originally is correct, and here's the evidence of it. So Professor Anne McNeil, Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology, and Neuroscience at the National Addiction Centre in London. Again, these are readily available. They have not been taken down. This is there for people to read. The House of Commons investigated electronic cigarettes from about the same time, 2015, through to this year, a 3-year study. They wanted a longitudinal study to look at the real effects of smoking and vaping. And guess what they said? E-cigarettes are substantially less harmful by about 95% than conventional cigarettes. In between that, these two publications, the Royal College of Physicians published a review in 2016 of electronic cigarettes, and they said exactly the same thing. They are 95% safer or more safe than that than tobacco. They also said that if the UK or anywhere in the world regulates electronic cigarettes, puts them under the same label as tobacco, then we will see a rise in tobacco smoking. Interesting. They said that. Why would they say that? Well, the author of this paper sits on the Royal College of Physicians Committee on Tobacco. So she has a strong influence on the Royal College and their opinion. Don't read this, please, but this is an excerpt from an article published in The Lancet, which is one of the leading medical journals in the world. And it questioned that 95% safer. And it looked at the 113-page report by Public Health England and said, you know what, you're basing your statement that is affecting the entire world on one study made by about 12 scientists, many of whom aren't really involved in tobacco, and they guessed. They just took a guess about how toxic electronic cigarettes are. And the scientists in the study actually said, they wrote, "We have no hard evidence of what we're saying is correct." So you have, they said, tobacco, they had a rating 100, deadly, 0, harmless. They put tobacco at 99.6%, deadly, electronic cigarettes 4%. So they said there's a 95% difference. Hence, 95% safer. That's the one study. This was published in The Lancet. It was picked up by the newspapers, who took it further because they had more investigative power. E-cigarette industry funded experts who ruled vaping is safe. Official advice is based on research. Scientists in the pay of manufacturers. I was a research scientist, but not in this industry, in a different industry, in the IT industry. And the industry wants to pay you to do work for them. So that was national headlines, but it didn't make a difference because that message did not change. How can we trust the people telling us these products are safe when they're paid by the industry? I'll get a bigger picture of this in a second. This was published in the British Medical Journal. They took this further. And I really would like you, if you can, just to make a note of this DOI. If you can look that up on the internet, that will take you to this paper. It exposes, it's short, it's only 2 pages. It exposes the corruption in the research industry for those who wrote this paper. So I'll give you a minute to write it down, then we'll move on to an expansion of what this actually says. This is a blow-up of that infographic. This is the paper, the estimating harm of nicotine that is being published as 95% safer. These are the individuals who wrote it. Dockrell, Martin Dockrell is the director of ASH, which is the campaign against smoking in the UK. They're all directly connected to e-cigarette industry, tobacco, Philip Morris, Global Tobacco Nicotine Forum, they are paid by them. Euroswiss Health is not a health company, it's a lobby company for the tobacco industry. Nicolife is e-cigarettes, Health Diplomatics, lobbyists for the tobacco industry. International Food and Beverage Alliance, they lobby for the tobacco industry. British American Tobacco, so they're all in the pay of the industry. Yet they still say the same thing, because this doesn't hit the headlines. It did actually hit the headlines, but the next headline comes and your attention span is taken away by the next headline, and you forget about it. Now the parliamentary review, this is Norman Lamb, a lovely man, the MP for Norfolk. He went on public television, BBC, and cried, and he said electronic cigarettes are so good. His son's a smoker, and he went to electronic cigarettes. And so he used that case. He really believes that they're good. He's the director of the Science and Technology Committee and directs the parliamentary group on e-cigarettes. He has strong relationships. UKVIA is the United Kingdom Vaping Industry Association. It's the lobby group for vaping and big tobacco. He talks to them, they talk to him, he has dinner with them, he's influenced by them. Mark Palsey, MP, chairman of this all-parliamentary group on e-cigarettes. This is supposed to be completely impartial. They look at every aspect of the science. They call in experts from everywhere. But he promotes Japan Tobacco International openly. He advertises for them. He doesn't hide it. Another MP received gifts from the tobacco industry. Japan Tobacco can't sell e-cigarettes in Japan. There's no market for them, and most of them are banned. But they have a big interest in selling into the United Kingdom. UKVIA the Vaping Industry Association acted as the secretariat. So it means that they governed and directed how this entire review was done. So it's corrupt, all of it. You can't trust any of it coming out of the politicians. This was all published in the newspapers. All these connections. Why are they saying, why are the politicians really saying these things? No, yeah, they're advised, and they go with their advisors. They think that the advisors know what they're doing. But when they openly say we take money from the industry, then we have to rethink what they tell us. And we have to show them the way. So over the years, there's been a massive increase in vaping from about 7 million all the way up to 41, 42 million. A huge increase since this product has really hit the market. Now, hitting you with a lot of political stuff, but this is all part of the reprogramming of an acceptance of these products as normal in the world. Okay, so we see a big demand for this. Okay, it's all about money. Okay, the vaping industry, 2015 was 8 billion, now projected to be in a few years' time 47 billion. It's expanding. I think that's a conservative estimate. If countries open the doors to electronic cigarettes and accept them as normal, then we have a big problem, really big problem. British American Tobacco, I love this quote, so I put it here. We often get asked why we don't just stop selling cigarettes. Okay, in short, we don't believe this would be commercially sensible. Why did they say that? This is on the website. I saw that it's still there, you can look. Because they write, the tobacco companies have to put on their websites that smoking is deadly and you will get lung cancer, you have heart disease, all the things we know about them you will get. But then they said, well, why don't we just stop making them? They said, well, we want the money. It's about the money. This is debatable, this figure, but the National Health Service says that the cost of smoking is about 4 billion. That's hospital costs, that's all the support staff around and all the different charities that help people stop smoking, about 4 billion. Revenues from tax on smoking, 12 billion. It's a monetary incentive, and I imagine most countries are the same, that the income from tax on this product is more than the cost of, far more than the cost of dealing with the effects of the product. Okay. Now, that is questionable. The loss of earnings in the private sector is about 6 billion per year, 7 billion per year. Okay, so you soon get that balance, but still the public cost. So what is the incentive for the industry and for the governments to change? There isn't one. One of the key arguments that the industry puts forward for electronic cigarettes that the scientists put forward is harm reduction. They say, if we can get every tobacco smoker onto an electronic cigarette, we will probably save 50,000, 100,000 lives per year or more globally. This is why they're pushing this. The scientists are pushing this. They believe that they will save many, many lives, and I'll talk about that in more detail later. The products that you see, that's the nicotine patch. It has twice the amount of nicotine as a cigarette. These things haven't really worked. Many of the professors and scientists who are now pushing electronic cigarettes had financial interests in those products, the chewing gums and the patches, and they haven't really worked to the level they would like, so they now have to look for some other savior to get rid of smoking. And this is the problem. It's become an ideological battle in the minds of some of these scientists, not just financial, but also ideological, that we must end smoking completely. And I'm not arguing that that's wrong. I agree that we must get rid of smoking. But is this the solution? Is electronic cigarettes the solution to it? No, it's part of the problem. And I found this wonderful website, Foundation for a Smoke-Free World. And I absolutely love the mission statement: to improve global health by ending smoking in this generation. Let's end smoking in this generation. I said, yes, I love that. That is so good. Such a drive to get rid of smoking in this generation. Fantastic. Around the world, until I found out that Philip Morris International is funding it. $80 million over 12 years, and I've seen reports of up to $1 billion. Why are they doing this? It's because they're under so much pressure about tobacco that they are trying to push smokers onto their harm reduction alternatives like IQOS, e-cigarettes. Yeah, patches maybe, but they have other websites, similar things. And everywhere they say, quitting is hard, quitting is hard, quitting is hard. It's brainwashing. It isn't, until you find out one thing, which I will tell you about. This is the problem. And then they say, okay, we know it's hard, so try alternative products. But there's so much of this promotion of alternatives, alternative nicotine delivery systems. And we'll talk about IQOS in detail in a little bit. I know it's a big problem in Switzerland. In Japan, they don't have electronic cigarettes, they have IQOS. And Philip Morris's CEO, the executive director, is trying to promote this product in other countries around that region. And he said that he's not worried about the nations like the Philippines because they don't really care about health when it comes to tobacco, so they can have tobacco. It's disgusting that he would say that, but that's their mentality. It's money. It's money. So this is from Philip Morris's website, the equation for the mathematicians here. And they say potential. They don't say harm reduction. They put potential as their word because they let the scientists and the governments say harm reduction and make it a declarative statement. Here they say maybe because we don't want to get sued. Okay. The goal is this harm reduction in the population of smokers, and the way they do that is to promote the product as less risky, provided that the smoker is satisfied with the taste and feel of the product itself. Okay, so what they're trying to get this equation in balance. So do I go away from cigarettes to vaping? Do I abandon cigarettes and vape? Do I abandon cigarettes and go to IQOS? What is the success rate of that complete switch? Now, if you listen to my government, they will say very high. But statistics from elsewhere say very low. Of 1,000 smokers who took up e-cigarettes, in order to quit tobacco in 2014, 84% kept smoking. And this is I'll talk about Alan Carr in a bit. This is a common statistic found across every country where electronic cigarettes have been introduced. Smokers take them, they're suspicious, they know that they're harmful. All the studies show from smokers, they understand that they're harmful, and they use them when they can't smoke. They use them in places where they're not allowed to smoke. And this is becoming, particularly in England, a very big problem because the National Health Service has a policy on smoking. It's just introduced, and a part of that policy states that electronic cigarettes should be used everywhere. There should be no restriction on electronic cigarette usage. And it's down to that Anne McNeil and Peter Hayek and others who put that message out based on a fallacy of paper that they knew had no evidence to back up what they were saying. Let's have a commercial break for a minute. Spot the difference game now. So Here's one picture. Can you spot the difference? Let's go back. He's wearing a hat. What other difference is there, really? Not much. Marlboro Man, 5 Marlboro Men. I knew one of them for Spain. I worked with him, an Englishman. I presume he's still alive, but he didn't look very well at the time. This was 20 years ago. All the Marlboro Men in adverts in America have died from smoking. Electronic cigarettes promoting exactly the same image. This is from a movie, Katharine Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961. This movie came out. Electronic cigarette. Spot the difference. It's mimicking that iconic image, although she's smoking, of this beautiful young lady at the time, actress, famous movie, and they mimic it. This is one of the most problematic issues with vaping, is that the vaping industry is the tobacco industry, and they are copying what they were doing in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They are promoting in exactly the same way to attract younger generations, to look at the ruggedness and the individuality of the free spirit of the man who is there, but he's smoking, and the electronic cigarette, the same thing, and then the beautiful young lady, the actress Katharine Hepburn in that movie, and then to this young lady, copycat, exact copycat. So I hope you spotted the difference between the pictures. Now, let's talk a bit more about vaping in detail. That steam, it's like a steam train. That's all in his lungs. There is a sport called cloud chasing, which I won't go into, but they try and vape as much into their lungs and blow huge clouds out, and the distance they cover is measured, and then they win a trophy. It's insane, right? It's crazy. But he says, this is from YouTube. I like YouTube, probably too much. He says that it's an art and it takes time to modify the electronic cigarette device that you need, and you have to build up your lung capacity to do it. But what's going into him? All that. And he says it's safe because that's what they've been told. So let's talk about a wonderful product called Juul. It's not really wonderful, but teenagers are thinking it is. This is not flash drive, USB stick. It's an electronic cigarette, but it looks like a flash drive. That's part of the digital addiction from this age. Technical addiction to gadgets. We train our babies to have these toy mobile phones. Schools train them to have all the gadgets. Everything is high tech. Maths you have to do online. You can't do it on pen and paper and a book anymore. It's seriously wrong. And teenagers trust technology because they grow up with high tech. And so they just presume it's okay. The advertisement, again for Juul, attractive young lady, almost erotic in the way she's vaping this cloud of whatever it is out of her. We'll go into what it is in a minute. Juul is a new generation electronic cigarette. It absolutely took over the American market. It's for sale in the United Kingdom. It's for sale, I'm not sure where in Europe, maybe in Germany, I'm not sure, but certainly it's for sale in other parts of the world. And it looks quite like a cool device until you find out what it actually is. Some more marketing. I'll show you a few images of how they're promoting this product. So this is an attractive young lady dancing or getting her fix, built to satisfy. Smoking evolved. So the purpose of this Juul was to wipe out the tobacco industry. So they say, the founders, and we'll look at that in a minute, and have everybody on this electronic cigarette in the United States and other parts of the world. Again, the marketing. This is attractive to the youth, to teenagers. They wonder what it is. What is this? It's very clever. Their marketing is very, very clever. They know exactly how to attract younger generations to their product. And they've tried and tested it through the tobacco industry. Okay, but this caused conniption fits, if I want to use that phrase, sorry. Big problems in America. This is from the Washington Post. The Food and Drug Administration in the US said, enough is enough. We are sick and tired of this vaping industry. The FDA chief said it's an epidemic. Why? Because at the beginning of this year, a year ago, there were 2 billion vapers at high schools, children in the US. Now there are 3.7 million because of Juul. And I would like to show the movie. This is the problem, that the children who use this don't know it contains nicotine. 63% don't know the product always contains nicotine. Not all electronic cigarettes do, but most do. Okay. And there's something special about Juul's nicotine, which we'll look at. This is from the patent for the nicotine salt. They have a nicotine salt, not a nicotine liquid. And it's a very important difference. The top curve is a standard cigarette nicotine hit into the blood. This lowest one is a standard e-cigarette, not Juul. This curve is Juul's nicotine hit. It is a huge amount of nicotine compared to your average electronic cigarette. This is why children are getting so addicted to this product. It's a nicotine salt. I don't want you to read this. This here is from the patent of ingredients for the nicotine salt from Juul. They patented this. These are all the toxic effects of the ingredients that I wrote down from the chemistry book I had. So they very carefully patented their product. So I kind of got really curious, what is a nicotine salt exactly? I found in 1948 a paper published about toxicity of nicotinium salts, which is nicotine salt, and related compounds by injection. It's an insecticide. It's the precursor to neonicotinoids. They used nicotine as an insecticide to kill insects in the 40s, but it wasn't very successful because nicotine was quite volatile as a compound on the skin of insects. So they created ways in which they could make it more robust and stable. Nicotine is an alkaloid. To make it a salt, you add an acid. And then that delivery of nicotine is much more reliable. And this was patented in 1949 as an insecticide. I'm not stating this is fact, I'm just saying this is what I found. I don't know if what we have is in Juul, the nicotine salt, is the same kind of thing. Is it follow the same process of creating an insecticide? This is an open question, and maybe a chemist can correct me, but this is from my own research and asking some health experts. We're not entirely sure what we found. So it's open to question. So what is the toxicity? No mother wants their child to smoke or to vape, but they think vaping might be safer. They're ingesting nicotine into their body. Nicotine's used as an insecticide. As a salt, it's used to get into your bloodstream faster and a bigger hit than a normal electronic cigarette. So Juul have a very special way of delivering the nicotine. So this is my question. Are you inhaling an insecticide? I put it out there. Okay, but the problem is perception that the children who use this don't think it's dangerous, thanks to the British government's publication of 95% safe, or safer than tobacco. These are the flavors from Juul, which we just looked at. About 80% of youth see no problem in the use of e-cigarettes. We have to change that perception. I'll get onto that shortly. I know I'm running out of time here, but I'll get through what I can. But they are being sued, Juul, by teenagers, well, by the parents of teenagers who are addicted to their product. And this product's liability action arises out of the design, manufacturing, and distribution of dual e-cigarettes and their pods, which contain 3 times more nicotine than is necessary to satisfy the nicotine cravings of an adult smoker, and to deliver these extreme doses of nicotine in an aerosoled vapor that is intentionally designed to taste like candy. I could end there, really. That says it all, doesn't it? But we move on quickly. So the ingredients, I don't have time to go through the list. I showed this 2 years ago. But the growing number of toxins in electronic cigarette vapor that's inhaled, many carcinogens, many that cause irritation, lead, vaping lead causes behavioral problems, hyperactivity, different kinds of nicotine, freebase, which is the normal liquid. If a toddler eats the capsule, it will kill them. It's happened, unfortunately. The poison centers in the US are saying there's a huge number of poisonings because of the nicotine liquids in animals as well, and pets. And so the list goes on. So I spoke to a junior doctor a few weeks ago, and she said that cigarettes are far worse than electronic cigarettes because they have hundreds of known carcinogens. And I said, well, how many do you need to get sick? You know, how many do you really have to take into your body? You know, is it okay to take 30 or 40 or 50 as opposed to hundreds? What's the difference? You're still going to get sick. And secondhand vaping is a fact. If somebody blows up that steam cloud next to you, you breathe it in. You get the nicotine, you get the heavy metals, you get the carcinogens into your lungs. Third-hand vaping is now beginning to be spoken about, that the vapor it's like a liquid, so it will stay on your clothing, on your skin, in your hair. And if your child, you go out and you vape because you don't want to see your children see you vape in the house, you go outside, come back in, you've still got the toxins over your body. Give your child a hug, they get those toxins, and those can be absorbed into the skin. Now, Public Health England say that every paper about secondhand vaping is a lie, that it's not proven, that all those papers have problems with them, and we should not accept any of it. Because they're promoting that you can vape everywhere. As dangerous as smoking. So I wanted to quote again this wonderful professor, Stanton Glantz. 2 years ago, I would say that electronic cigarettes are 25% as dangerous as tobacco. Now I think they're 3/4 to as dangerous as a cigarette. There you have it. Completely different view to the British. I'm siding with this man because he knows what he's talking about, and he isn't corrupt. The National Academy of Sciences were asked by the FDA, because of Juul, to do a complete survey of the literature, 800 papers. This is just the headlines. They found that if you vape, you will go to tobacco. The risk is heightened that you'll go to tobacco, 6 times more likely, 4 times more likely you will try a cigarette. E-cigarettes can explode, though it's rare, okay. The liquid, as we said, is fatal. So it's not just me saying this. This is the National Academy of Sciences, a leading research institute in the US. Okay, so it's the same thing. Interesting, they said if everybody switched from smoking to vaping, a middle-aged smoker would probably have less toxins in their body, short term. But long term, because of the massive increase in vaping in children in schools, long-term health effects for the population are worse. It's going to get worse because we almost beat that smoking monster. Is it better? No. That's the answer. No, it isn't. This is what it is. It's a stick of dust, tobacco dust, which gets heated up to a temperature and creates a vapor cloud which you inhale like tobacco. The industry's research says it's 90 to 95% safer than tobacco. This is the industry, Philip Morris. They say it's almost the same in terms of breathing air for getting emphysema. They say this is their product they're measuring against. They say that for cardiovascular disease, it's almost the same as breathing air. Do you really believe that? This is what they're promoting their product as. But the proper science says they release similar levels of volatile organic compounds, carcinogens, as nicotine, and higher levels of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon acenothenes than conventional cigarettes. Well, you know what those are, right? They're all the cancer-causing agents. Lung cancer, liver cancer, stomach cancer, skin cancer, bladder cancer. That's what causes them. Higher. The same thing over the years. They've been trying to promote this product, a different version. We found it to be the same, at least as toxic as some commercially available cigarettes. This is heat-not-burn products. Through history, always the same result, as bad as tobacco. Always the same result. Even this year, publication in Tobacco Control is associated with significant pulmonary and immunomodulatory toxicities. So the same problems, no difference between conventional cigarettes at all. Okay? It's the same. So ask yourselves, is it really safer than smoking? No, it's the same, exactly the same. But this company is promoting it around the world as safer. So now you can tell people. Nicotine has been reported to help both relax and stimulate at levels found in cigarette smoke, e-cigarette vapors, or concentrations, in replacement products. Nicotine is likely to be no more risky for most people than regularly drinking coffee. Nicotine can have a range of benefits, particularly for mood and concentration. Who said that? Take a wild guess. It's the industry, British American Tobacco. You'd think this was many years ago, as Lucas pointed out in your slides. 1994? No, this year. This year. They don't care. They said, we want the money. And they knew that nicotine's addictive in 1963, that they are in the business of selling drugs. They knew that. They knew also that no matter how low the nicotine level is in the product, the smoker adjusts their amount to that level. So to pretend that nicotine isn't addictive, they have lower levels of nicotine, and they know that the smoker will smoke more to get the nicotine hit. This is the same with electronic cigarettes that have lower nicotine. They vape more to get the nicotine levels. They're an addict. I wanted to mention this man, Alan Carr. He smoked 100 cigarettes a day. And he tried every method to quit, but couldn't do it. Couldn't do it until somebody told him, you're an addict. You're addicted to nicotine. You're a drug addict. And that unlocked the brainwashing in his mind about smoking. And he quit, boom, just like that. And then he told his friends, and they quit. And then suddenly, people were calling him, can you help, can you help, can you help? And so he began his process of teaching people how to quit immediately. Get this please, if you know someone who smokes, who's desperate to quit and can't, get this book really, really helps. It completely unpicks the brainwashing you go through from movies, from advertisements, from the industry, from governments. They tell you it's hard to quit, almost impossible. His way is easy. Really important. This is the problem. If you're smoking, you know it's wrong. Every smoker, whatever they tell you, does not like smoking. They wish they could stop. But they're brainwashed into believing they're giving up something really important, something that's maybe a pleasure or a crutch in stress and crisis, in moments of stress and crisis. And so they can't give up smoking because they're giving up a part of their lives. So he's dreaming of smoking. But Alan Carr said that's rubbish. You are not giving up anything. You are gaining everything when you quit. your addiction. Okay? And the first step to quitting is the recognition that you're an addict. That's the most important thing. My dad smoked heavily, but he tried many ways to quit. His dad died from smoking effects, cancer. His uncles died. They all smoked. They all got cancers from smoking. So he wanted to quit, but he couldn't. He tried patches. He tried chewing gum. Couldn't quit. But his job was he was a sales rep in a company that made property company. So he had to drive a lot, and they had a company car. The policy of the company was nobody smokes in the car. So he traveled long distances to sites where they built property. And he had to stop on the motorways every half an hour, 20 minutes, to have a cigarette. And at that point he went, oh my God, I'm an addict. And then he quit. Easy. That one thing made him, he realized immediately, I don't want to be a drug addict. I don't want to be controlled by my drug. And this is what Alan Carr is saying. This is how it works. It makes the addict seek relief in the very thing that's causing them misery. That's addiction. They are fooled into believing that they have to have this product. And I want just one more thing before we finish. It's most people who smoke say they do it because it helps them relax in stressful times. Some say they look forward to their first cigarette. And so it's a pleasure, but really they are controlled by that. Even if you smoke one a day, if you don't have your one a day, you go crazy for your cigarette. Okay? And I've been with smokers, friends of mine, who were down to the last cigarette in their packet and were tearing their hair out. Where can I find a tobacconist to buy tobacco? Really desperate. Cigarettes are addictive, okay? The only reason you smoke is to relieve the empty, insecure feeling of withdrawal from the previous cigarette. You don't get a high from nicotine. People say they get a high. You don't. You don't. But you get all the toxins in the cigarette that start to make your body suffer. And so what can I do to get rid of this suffering, this crawling inside of me? I'll have a smoke. And then that nicotine affects the dopamine release in your brain, and then it's not really a high, it's just relieving that stress from within. Alan Carr said there are two monsters of nicotine, and this is what was mentioned yesterday. The physical monster is only 1% of the problem. The big is the mental and the emotional problem. When you think about wanting to smoke, your thoughts, as we've heard this week, are going out there and are attracting like thoughts. And that energy is coming to, yes, smoke. That is the smoking monster that Alan Carr identified. And he said, if you can switch off that brainwashing from the big monster and say, I'm an addict, I don't need this. I know it's not doing me any good. I know I am being poisoned, and I can switch it off because I now know what I am and I know what that monster, that entity is. I can cut it off. And the physical withdrawal, you may have a day, maybe two, of minor suffering you won't even notice, because when you have your last cigarette, and his program allows you to smoke up until the very end of the program. Now you got to your last cigarette, and you can joyously, he says smoke it, because you know it's your last one. And then you live your life brand new from that very second you quit. Don't avoid other smokers because you're running in fear. It's still a crutch. You're holding on to something. Face up to it and say, I don't smoke anymore, but you go ahead. No, I don't want it. And be happy in that and rejoice in it. That's the key. It's not difficult to quit if you disconnect that big monster The little monster will go, I need something, and that pulls the big monster to you, that smoking entity. But he said, okay, stop the brainwashing. So the success rates, just very briefly, this is over 12 months. In his book, he says about 80% doctors who write in his book as testimonials say 80% success rate. Independently, I've seen 53%, so I'm being conservative here. That's after 12 months that they followed up after a year. Willpower, the patches and it's really hard, but you can do it. 4%, tobacco industry says that because they want you to vape. Okay, 20%, this is from the United Kingdom. Every October they have a month called Stoptober, which is Stop Smoking in October. A whole month of trying to quit. They have TV programs and celebrities who smoke, who give up. And they found that on average, 20% of those who enter this will stop for 1 month. They don't follow up the statistics after that month. But there's a problem with it now because they now say that instead of quitting, you can vape instead. So they take up vaping. So that's the problem. So much more successful. What can we do? Many levels of change, globally, locally, local, and you, okay? We need to rethink how we live, remodify our behavior, okay? And love life, as Dr. Schweitzer wrote about. It's so important to love. And for those who smoke, to know that they're loved too. To not push them in corners. As Dr. Iadze said yesterday, treat them with respect. I don't respect what they're doing to themselves, but I respect the person, love the person. It's so vital. So important that we change the consciousness of the world. I started this petition in a couple of days ago in England. A government petition to ban electronic cigarettes from public display because you go into shops, they're on the counters right next to the toys and the sweets, and you got your electronic cigarettes. Treat them like tobacco, stick them in behind a closed door so you can't see them. So I need 100,000. Education is so important for children. I'll take questions in a minute if that's okay. Talk to your children. Who do they play with? Who are their friends? My son's best friend, his dad sells electronic cigarettes as a business on eBay. I don't want to split their friendship up, but if the parents smoke and he vapes, now he was a heavy smoker, the child is most likely to follow suit. So they're going to different schools when they go to high school, so I'm kind of glad of that. Effect. But be very careful. Educate your schools. I will say something about that in a second. How you do that. Educate your local government. And in writing letters, we've heard that it's so powerful. If you write to these people, we want to remove the demand for this product. We have to do it. We can do it together. Okay? What's happened? San Francisco just banned flavors of electronic cigarettes. If they can do it, so can we. Where are we? New York State just banned vaping in public places. Hong Kong just banned electronic cigarettes completely. Other countries don't accept them, but they're being pushed to. This is the UK. Experts call for a ban on this. You are now experts because you've been part of this talk, so you can go and stand up. And you can say what I'm saying because you can have these slides and you can read and learn and talk the way that we talk here. This man, this is so cool. I was in the airport at Heathrow, looking at my slides quickly, and news just came in. This man works for a company called Cox Health. I thought I have to put this in. He's a anti-vaping expert, a smoking cessation expert. He got called into high schools in America to talk about Juul, to talk about nicotine and addiction and the poisons and what they can do to stop it and how to handle, to some ways, addiction. We've heard some things on addiction here this few days. I want us all to do the same. My children go to schools. Many of you have children and grandchildren who go to high schools. Why can't we all do this? Why can't we learn the science, the facts? You have it here in these slides, and it's available to do some study. Then go talk to the schools. Talk to the head teachers that you know. Can I come and talk about this problem? Because it's a problem, and it's growing, and soon we'll be back to like we were 10, 20 years ago with smoking, 30 years ago, unless we stop it now. And then see what happens. Maybe together we can put together a little pack of information so you can all have the same slide deck or the same information to go. I will do that for you. Finally, last slide. My goal was really this, and Stanton Glantz summed it up in this book about the 1994 subpoena of the tobacco industry. Perhaps this talk, he said, his book finally will lead to the public, that's us, and the public policy makers to deal with the tobacco, and I put e-cigarette, industry in a manner appropriate to the amount of death and suffering it knowingly creates. That's their business. Let's end that business. Thank you. Thank you.